I thought perhaps I'd give you, firstly, a bit of background about myself.
Do you want me to share my screen so people can see the slides too, to start with?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, can you see that, Dawn?
Yeah, I can, yep.
Okay.
Yep, no, that's all right. Now, I'll just read some of the things that I've written out. And this is some of the background to me. Look, I've got to say that after seeing all those people yesterday, I'm definitely quite different because I have no degrees in art. And you could actually call me a bit of a high school dropout. My first job was as a floristry apprentice, and then I went on to become a tracer in an engineering office. But whatever I did in 100 years ago, it never ever meant that much to me. I always wanted to do art, and I have to thank my father for that. And because he was adamant, he used to get us on the train most Sundays and we'd be off to the museum. He loved the museum. And he was an interesting sort of mix, actually, because my father was a timber worker. He worked in the very place that Steve, who's on next, is trying to save for our leadbeater's possum and our greater gliders. When he died, he had well and truly become what we might call a greenie. He worked in the industry in the 40s and the 50s, and when it was selective logging. He even taught one of the first tree sitters how to use spurs. And so he had done a complete full circle. He was very, very artistic himself. And, you know, I've got to say that I sort of owe a lot to him and the fact that he was this unusual person that was a deep thinker. He was also a high spar rigger, and there wasn't that many of them. They were the men that actually climbed up to the top of the trees. He spent many, many days in the company of eagles. They chopped the top of the tree out, and this was in the days when they had no chainsaws, and then he would come down and the other men. We're talking about a time when the timber industry employed a lot of men, whereas nowadays, if you go into a logging coop, there's one man that's handling a machine that's worth about $5 million. It cuts a tree down, it strips the bark off, and it's loaded onto a truck. And most of that, about 86% of it, finishes up in copy paper. So that was what my father did, you know, and there was a lot of men back then that were employed in the timber industry. We came to Gippsland in 1981. We came from the Mornington Peninsula, and we bought 63 acres. It was actually 128 acres, I think, but it was on 2 titles. And we were only young, and we couldn't afford the whole lot, and we knew it was on 2 titles. So we said, oh, we got back to the real estate agent and said, would the owner like to, and we actually know who the owner is today, was then, and he said, well, we'll cut it in half for you. So we took the half that had a nice wetlands on it, and it's all virgin bush. What I'd actually like to add to that is that we found this property in the Weekly Times, and it was advertised as really, really good for red gum posts. It was much, much cheaper than cleared land. It was in the days when, oh, we can buy that really cheaply and we can get rid of all the timber that's on it and we can graze our sheep or graze our cows. And so that's the reason why it was sold to us as good for fence posts for your fencing. So we moved in 2081 from the Mornington Peninsula, and it was after that that I started to really, I had 2 small children, and I started to paint. When we moved, we were like pioneers. We had this funny little shack down the back, and I used to paint by candlelight, or when the the artificial, I'm getting old, my words don't come to me very well anymore. We had you turn it on with petrol to turn the lights on, and it went on about 5 o'clock in the morning. My husband put it on, and I did an exhibition in Bairnsdale of little wildlife critters, and this is how I started. And as time went by, we became aware that there was a Wildlife Art Society. So we became part of the Wildlife Art Society of Australasia, and they were in Melbourne. Now, my husband also took on sculpture because he's always been very artistic. In fact, that's how we got together, because we both worked in a drawing office, and I actually like the fact that he was artistic as well. So we've always had this strong bond in common, and so we used to do these exhibitions together, and we became part of the Wildlife Art Society. He was president at one stage, and over those years, over these 35 odd years of belonging to a society where the majority of the artworks that were exhibited were absolutely pristine, beautiful works of either our Australian birds, birds around the world, animals, etc., etc. And it became a thing with us that it worried us that what we were doing, not so much what anyone else was doing, was just these beautiful pictures and sculptures of these wonderful animals that had really been done for hundreds of years. There was no change, there was no real difference in what was happening. And you could see that I wanted to bring in things that said something about what we were doing to our wildlife. I became very, very friendly with Charles McCubbin. He lived at Longford. We were lifelong friends, and he taught me everything he knew about art. So that was really where I got any sort of knowledge from about art, about the practice of art, apart from all the things that I read over the years. And I think Louise has just put up one of my images, which is the long-footed potteroo. Now, this particular painting was in the gallery in Sale at my last exhibition a few years ago. Now, the reason why I've done the long-footed potteroo is because about 32 years ago, I became very, very friendly with a researcher, Dr. Andrew Claridge, and for his thesis when he was at ANU, I did his drawings. And his thesis was about the long-footed potteroo, but about all our potteroos, which there is 3 of them. You've got the long-nosed, the long-footed, and the recently rediscovered Gilbert's potteroo in West Australia. And what his thesis was about is that the symbiotic relationship between the habitat that these animals use and the way that if you get rid of these animals, it can't possibly come back the same. We get a lot of nice brochures from the timber industry that'll show beautiful stands of timber that they'll say, this is what it looks like after 30 years when we've grown it all back. But if you've clear felled a logging coop or several of them, it actually can't come back unless we have these animals. It's something like what happens with cassowaries. It goes through their gut system and it goes back into the ground, and they're basically called truffles that they eat, mycorrhiza that grows underneath the root systems of the habitat that they use. Now, I don't know whether Louise has got the other ones there, the other photos, but that's another one that I did, and it was exhibited in the Blake Prize in 2011, and it caused a bit of a furore because I had depicted the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, as orangutans. And so the Catholic Times at the time called me godless and a few other bad names as well. So I was in a bit of trouble. Chris and I quite often have used religious icons to get our point across about wildlife extinction. I don't know if the crucified orangutan is up there or not, but there's a crucified.
It is later on.
Yeah. Oh, okay. On. That's all right. Yeah, well, I'll talk about that later then. So now I wanted to talk to you about what happened a long time ago. It was 2000, and I've got all these bits of paper in front of me to remind me things. God, I'm so hopeless with this. Sorry about that. It was 2002, I think it was, that the Wildlife Arts Society had a meeting, and they brought in a herpetologist from Melbourne Zoo. There it is. And he had been over to throughout Asia, and he'd worked over there, and he had photos of what was happening in the Hong Kong markets, Wuhan markets, all of that. And it was possibly one of the most dreadful things I think I've ever seen. I was there. I think it was 2000 and, yeah, there it is. I've got it here, 2002. And we went and we listened to this herpetologist, and Crystal was there, who was probably about 21 at the time, and she had to leave. This was so shocking that she actually left the building because it upset her so much. But I stayed and listened to exactly what he was saying. And we're talking about photos of semi-trailer loads of turtles that were being delivered to the Hong Kong markets. They were being sold for medical purposes and for eating. I'd like to add that I, for one, do not have the right of moralising over these practices. Sitting at my computer in relative comfort, I am not equipped to understand a situation that will put people in a position for the need to poach wildlife for their very survival. There is a YouTube video about the Asian turtle crisis, which is easy to find, and it's worth looking at. It shows the breadth of the trade in wildlife that's caught throughout Asia, generally starts in Vietnam. And what happens is the children go out, they look for something that they can sell on, which they do. and then they sell it on to something else, to something else, to something else, until it finishes up in the markets, and that's where it's sold. And we're talking about semi-trailer loads of them. Well, when we went into lockdown, because of the what happened, I thought I'd write a little bit about it, and I've actually contacted Melbourne Zoo about it, because when he did this this great talk, it moved me so much that I spoke to him afterwards, and because he wanted an artist to do a painting of them, of the golden coin turtle, that they wanted to make a poster of, to go into the schools in Asia, just as an awareness thing. I don't know whether it made any difference or whatever, but anyway, I volunteered and I said, look, I'll do that for you. And I'm lucky because I've got a son-in-law that's a graphic designer, and he actually put the thing together, and without any charge. So we worked with Melbourne Zoo. But the day that I went down to Melbourne Zoo to see this golden coin turtle, he handed this to me, and in my shaking hands, he said to me, well, this is the only one in Australia. And he said, we found this turtle. It was found in one of the streets in Perth. It had been smuggled in from one of the markets in Asia. And I gave it back to him as quickly as I possibly could, because I thought, if I drop this thing and kill it, that'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? So when I wrote about the Asian turtle crisis during the lockdown, I contacted the zoo, because what they really wanted to do was start breeding them. And this is, and luckily I didn't even have one of the posters. The posters are still up in the herpetology department, and where all the displays are at Melbourne Zoo. They're still up there, probably fading or something. But anyway, this is what he wrote to me, because I really wanted to know whether they'd been successful, because I know they were trying to get other golden coin turtles to see if they could breed them. And this is what he said. Melbourne Zoo currently has 2 males and 5 female Chinese 3-striped box turtles, in brackets, golden coin turtles. We imported 7 individuals from Tennessee Aquarium in 2010. And there's a lot more to that, but I better leave it, because it's getting late, isn't it? So anyway, they finally did get some females, and they have bred them, but they don't really put them on show, because they need a much larger area to go on show. Now, the next thing I'd like to say is, now, 3 years ago, I had an exhibition at our amazing little gallery over at Bryagalong. This is a gallery that punches so much, so high above its weight, it's not funny, you know. So anyway, I had an exhibition, and I was just going to do some nice little watercolours, and not thinking that I was going to, you know, do anything that outrageous. And my daughter, who's the director of the East Gippsland Art Gallery, said to me, no, Mum, you do some of your really, really environmental stuff and put that in. So that's what I did. So that's what's on the screen now. The one of the koala is called Advanced Australia Fair, and the one on the right is my husband's orangutan that won the Waterhouse Natural History Art Prize in South Australia at the museum when Tim Flannery was the director. Now, I always felt that the two of us couldn't really get anywhere in our art and saying what we want to about extinction unless we brought in other artists, because the strength in the thing would be to add more and more artists to what we're trying to say. So what happened was, in August 2019, Care was born. The first meeting of care began with everyone talking at once and everyone with all sorts of grandiose ideas. Little did we know that a few months down the track, Gippsland and our very front door, all hell would be unleashed. Now, there should be an image of Stephen DuPont's fire there. That's right, and he's one of the exhibitors in the exhibition at the moment in sale. Now, and it was right on our doorstep, that fire, and so much was happening. I think Chris went out and he was helping Lisa Roberts, who's going to be on later, and our daughter Crystal was helping her wet down some the beautiful grey-headed flying foxes because they were dying, and they had died in huge numbers the year before because the heat stress kills them after it gets to nearly 40 degrees. So we were in a terrible state. But before that, I came up with the idea of, that was in October, I came up with the idea, which I thought, you know, only I could be as ridiculous as this, that we're going to go off to Canberra and we're going to force our way into Canberra and we're going to carry a great big, huge dodo egg, what I called a dodo egg. So we got, my husband and I got together and we made this great big paper mache dodo egg, and we finished up with 42 artists getting involved, and when you open it up, it holds all their messages and their artwork. And so with a lot of pushing and shoving locally with Darren Chester and his poor secretary that I think she would have liked to have donged me on the head, finished up, we got ourselves into Canberra, and the minister, the Environment Minister, met us, and we brought out all these beautiful little heartfelt messages about the critters that we're losing in Australia. And everyone came on board and it was just absolutely wonderful. I've got to say that of all the things that we've done in the last 3 years, I think this one really, I'm just so proud of it. You know, it's not about these big grandiose paintings and things, although they're really, really wonderful, and the exhibitions and all of that. There's this little thing that I feel that we went up there passionately. There were 7 of us. We went through the metal detector, and the security guards, you could see that they thought it was the most hilarious thing they'd ever seen because we couldn't get this thing through the metal detector. So, we caused pandemonium, but anyway, we got it through and we got it through, and we told the minister exactly what we were thinking, and it all worked out very, very well. And then, of course, with lockdowns, we had 7 exhibitions organised for 2020, and they all had to be cancelled. There's your gorgeous mother in there, Louisa, who's like my right-hand man. God, she's good, except she's a woman, obviously, but she's just been marvellous. And there's the beautiful Amanda Goodge and Di Depler. These are people that have stuck with what we're trying to do, hell or high water, absolutely wonderful. And then all of a sudden, when it was locked down, we finished up with a terrific exhibition at the East Gippsland Art Gallery, where I'm trying to think that there was over 50 artists, I think, in that exhibition. And then and that one actually went through for the whole month, which was fantastic. But then in July, was it July? June, July, I can't remember now, June or July in 2021, we had the exhibition, the other exhibitions. One was at Bryagalong. We had the one in Mafra exhibition space, upstairs in the gallery in Sale, and Orbost had one as well. And they were all fantastic, but then we were locked down, and poor Bryagalong, I think they were only open for about 5 days. So we've worked against all odds to get these exhibitions up. But and during the exhibitions, I had a phone call from Simon Grigg, from the director at Sale Gallery, and he said, "Dawn, we're going to do a great big exhibition, and I'm going to take it off you, because I'm so hopeless at getting all the technology right with computers and everything." So it was just such an amazing relief to me, because I really don't get enough out to all the people that are involved in care. I think I send out emails to well over 100 people when I send one out, which could take me weeks, because I've got this old computer that I'm at war with, and so I sort of struggle, you could say. Now, part of the other little part of care that we started was we started painting these little wooden cutouts, and we were selling them as fridge magnets. Now, these fridge magnets, we got together, there may be a group of about 10 of us that paint them. And we made all these fridge magnets, and let me tell you, these fridge magnets, they were sold for $10 each. I used to say to people, now, if you buy one of these, if you're going to see it on the Antiques Roadshow in 50 years' time, because that particular artist that signed that is going to be so famous, it's going to be worth a fortune. Anyway, we sold so many of these, and the artists were so generous with it that they painted them, and we've sold that many of them that we've actually sent money to the rescuers for the grey-headed flying fox. We've sent money to the mange management team that do the Sidectin for the wombats. We helped the Greater Glider raise money for the Greater Glider court case to fight for habitat. We even gave a $1,000 prize last year in the large outdoor sculpture show in Sale. So that's where so there's kind of this other side, but there's all these artists that are involved as well, which has been absolutely fantastic. They are a fabulous group of people, and we're definitely not going to give up. We'll be fighting on. I'd like to say that the artists, I think, that really need to be mentioned here are Amanda Goodge and Penny Carruthers, who've painted so many of them for me, and they're absolutely marvellous, those girls. They've been out with me when I've protested in the street, and I get abused, and I think some people would like to throw something at me, but they've been marvellous. But the other person I'd like to say something about is Wendy Fusel, who has painted a lot of them. And Wendy's, I love it. She's exhibited the Regent Honey Eater for right through the whole of each of these exhibitions, because they have a property over at over past Bryagalong, where 30 years ago they used to see quite a lot of Regent honey eaters, and they've slowly disappeared. And that's the reason why her whole thing has been, her whole art practice when it comes to care has been making sure people know about the Regent honey eater. Now, the last thing I'd like, because I know I'm going over time, the last thing I really want to say is this latest project, which I think is really, really important. If I put that, see, I'm putting it up, there it is. Can anyone see that at the bottom of the screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, see those? Well, that's what we're doing. And I want everybody to know that I'm working with the Wellington Shire and the East Gippsland Shire, and we have produced 42 of our local threatened species. And we're working with children, 10 schools at the moment, and 700 of these little critters have been cut out, and the children are all painting them. So we've got 700 children painting them, and they're all going to be going around Lake Guyot and in places in East Gippsland. And I think bringing children in is just so important to getting the message across. And I just wanted to read out the groups that are involved in this and giving their time. And I wanted to bring as many community groups in as possible. So we're working with the Stratford Men's Shed, who have been absolutely marvellous. And they remind me of, if they're listening, they'll think they'll be very, they'll probably be annoyed with me saying this, but when I go in there, they remind me of the Seven Dwarfs. They're busily making the stands that you can see on the screen, and the other part, the kids are going to do it, and they have to put their school and their name on it, and the species will go in the front there. And we're doing all of this for Threatened Species Day. The groups that are involved are the Stratford Men's Shed, Bunnings Hardware in Sale have been absolutely marvellous. They have given us more than 70 lengths of the dowel. And I will say to you here, we have checked that these that are being used here are recycled, and we have bought new of these, and they are Forest Stewardship Council accredited. So everything is covered and environmentally friendly. We've got the Avon Land Care Group, the Sale Botanical Gardens, Gippsland Art Gallery Sale, East Gippsland Art Gallery Bairnsdale, the Wellington Shire, the East Gippsland Shire, and obviously headed up by CARE and all our artists and our wonderful children in this local area, that we're going to make a big splash on the 7th of September on Threatened Species Day. We're hoping that we'll be able to add to it every year and see if we can't bring other shires in and bring the kids so as they're involved as well with it. But yeah, no, I think with a bit of help from maybe Louisa, we might be able to go and try and lobby some galleries in Melbourne, some public galleries, and see if we can't get another one of these wonderful exhibitions that the Gippsland Art Gallery is showing at the moment. See if we can't get one in one of the big galleries in Melbourne would be wonderful. But thanks very much. I'm sorry I went over.
That's okay. I knew you would, Dawn. But that was fantastic. I hearing about this grassroots thing that started from small seed ideas, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and it's wonderful. The work that you do is incredible. We really appreciate it.